I see him. Shit, he's f***ing come up. I'm pretty sure I saw him up. I see him. Shit, he's f***ing come over this way. He's gonna walk this way.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to episode number 2 of the official Be Rich podcast. I'm joined today by the Independent Press Project, Chiikko, and Mayo TV, Southland Bounty Hunter. What's going on, guys?
What's up, bro?
What up?
Well, if you guys want to take a second and introduce who you are and what you do. I know a couple of the people that'll be watching on this channel are familiar with Chiikko. We've done podcasts before. But I think, Patty, you're on the other side of the spectrum from what we do. We're more in the news, politics, social movements, current events, things like that, where you have done really well on YouTube in more of an entertainment respect, right?
Yeah, I came from the what we would call cancer on YouTube. That's, I think, how it's perceived right now. The prank genre.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty good stuff, though, man. I enjoy a few of those prank videos.
I like doing pranks. It was fun, but yeah, I had to get out of it eventually. It was the thing to do on YouTube for a long time, but it drove me nuts. I couldn't stand doing that type of content anymore. So now, we're back on the streets doing some bounty hunter videos, making some stuff that I actually really enjoy making now. So it's nice. YouTube's become a better place for me now.
That's cool, because we're kind of in a time right now where everybody seems to hate the fuck out of YouTube. It's
a lot of bad raps going around.
Well, I mean, you have a lot of things going on between the adpocalypse, destroying a lot of up and coming channels and discouraging bigger channels that were a little bit more controversial. I had seen a video where you actually addressed it, I believe, and you had to adapt by working with some sponsors and getting things taken care of in a more professional way rather than just getting all huffy and puffy and quitting. And I've seen quite a few people quit.
There was a time where back in April 8th is when the rock bottom hit for me on my channel, where 80% plus of the revenue on a daily basis had just been ripped from under us. And thankfully, our sponsors were able to step up and help carry the channel through. And also, I had to switch up the content because YouTube made it abundantly clear that they didn't want certain styles of content on YouTube. And it's not like this is a new thing in terms of YouTube shutting down types of content. We saw earlier in the year, really about a year and a half ago, one of the big things that happened that nobody talked about too much was community channels. So when I first became a YouTuber, it was just like it is now. It's hard to get subscribers. It's hard to get viewership. It's hard to get exposed when you're brand new. But back then, they were doing these community channels like Yes Funny. Yes had some channels, and we all know about SoFlo and those guys. But for how much crappy spam stuff they did, they helped new YouTubers get noticed because you'd be able to submit your video from your no-name channel up to these community channels who had millions of subscribers. That's how you'd get popular. And then YouTube found that was a quote-unquote an easy way to success, or maybe a way to game the algorithm in a way. So they did away with community channels, and all of a sudden one day they just weren't getting crap for views because YouTube said, oh, well, this is spam. You're just reposting videos. And sure, it's a form of spam, but it's just a form of promotion and sponsorship at the same time. And so I think that this latest set of rules, if you will, from YouTube is designed to do a couple different things. One, it's designed to take away money from people who are abusing the algorithm and using it in a way that puts less sustainable content on the platform, more cancer-driven content because it's clickbait-driven stuff. And sure, there's always going to be a place on some platform for clickbait because it's attractive to people. People like seeing clickbaity stuff. It's the same reason you don't go fishing without bait.
Right, you want to catch a fucking fish.
Yeah, that's the goal. The goal is to get views, and for anybody to do anything less is ridiculous. But at the same time, I think YouTube has a responsibility to say, okay, well, if you're going to create this type of content, we need to make it somewhat competitive so that people keep their um people keep creating better and better content, not crappier and crappier content just to get the views. So I think this is their response to that. And I think the other part of this whole adpocalypse is, and I've seen this firsthand, now that you've seen my channel go to daily videos, I think YouTube wants to drive money towards the creators who are creating the most content and putting the most time into their channels. And it needed to happen because there's so many players coming on the field. YouTube has to put some kind of rules in place that allows the people who are putting in the most effort to at least be properly compensated for that and not be undermined by people who are just abusing the system.
Right. It weeds out the people that are in it, kind of like you said, just in there as a weed. A lot of people have stopped making videos. They just gave up on it. And I mean, now this channel that I'm doing this podcast on tonight, this is a brand new channel. This is the second podcast on it. And part of the new rules with YouTube is you can't even monetize your channel until you hit 10,000 views, which sometimes that's not a big problem. I mean, with your channel, you can hit that in a day, couple days. My other channels, I can hit that in a week, depending on what it is, or a day, depending on what I uploaded. But I really wanted to separate my content from live streaming, running around on the streets like I normally do. That's kind of what built that other channel. And then I was kind of shitting on my audience by using that channel to do the podcasts or reporting on the news, because I built that channel on live streaming from the streets. So I started seeing mixed reactions in my comment threads and in my chats, like, well, this guy is supposed to be out on the streets with, a riot or chasing down a serial killer in Cleveland, not sitting here talking to some dude about politics. And I was watching, viewership change and fluctuate, so I adapted, and that's why I created this channel too. So
I think that was a good move.
Yeah, so I'll have to build it up and make new friends out there, and that's fine. Cool.
Yeah, I think as long as you just keep, you keep grinding it and you keep doing it on a consistent basis, that's all that matters. But definitely keeping a channel to the same style of content every time you upload is, I think, super important on YouTube, which drove me a little bit crazy when I changed over from pranks to bounty hunting stuff, because it's a whole different genre. And if you look for, the first 20 days, I lost subscribers day after day after day after day until people were like, oh, all right, you know what? This new content flies with most of us, and it's starting to be, starting to come back up again. But
right. Well,
YouTube,
it's going to be a different.
YouTube is a beast.
It's definitely going to be a different audience. I used to love watching the prank videos when I was younger. I would spend hours watching prank videos or those owned fail videos. I think those were my first love of YouTube, watching people just biff and just jack themselves up.
Oh yeah.
But as I evolved, I started wanted to watch better content. You know what I'm saying? I would prefer to watch your bounty hunting videos, because I mean, I'm kind of into that thing. I want to do that pretty much same exact thing. And when you and I had a conversation a couple months ago, before you started your bounty hunter series, I didn't realize that you were getting ready to kick into full gear with that. And I'm like,
I didn't realize it either.
And I'm like, I was telling you, I'm like, man, I would love to get that squared away so that I can go out and do, the bounty hunting or the private investigating, because I mean, that's where my true passion is really in investigating. I guess I'm pretty good at conversating, but I would really rather investigate. I went to DC 2 weeks ago to investigate an unsolved murder, and I really felt that I just enjoyed, like, we went into a bar and I was talking to people and I was questioning and asking questions, but I was being sly. I was kind of rolling slick in there, and I had a good time doing it. And then I get home and I'm like, what am I gonna do from here on out? How could I further that, because I had so much fun doing it? But you look at travel and you look at all kinds of different things involved in doing that, and the license to do it without getting thrown in jail. That's why I've been running with that vigilante title, because I'm technically doing everything under the radar, illegitimately.
Yeah, I saw that when I first found you, the cops were jacking you up for chasing that shooter around or whatever it was. And man, it's so crazy to me that the cops in different areas of the country act completely differently. So, like, for example, last night I was sitting at Apple. Is this a good time for the Applebee's incident?
Yeah, it is.
All right. So strap in. So last night, I'm like, all right, we need a day off. We captured 2 guys the night before. I can take a day off, finally. So we go to Applebee's, eating good in the neighborhood for the night, and get my all-day brunch burger, which was freaking fantastic. And then I'm looking out the window, and I see this man slap this woman in the side of the head, and I was like, whoa, did he just do what I think he just did? And so a waitress stands in front of me, and I was so involved in watching the moment, I didn't even realize it, but my girlfriend had to apologize for me because I yelled at the waitress. I was like, move! So I could see what was going to happen next. And so I see them standing toe-to-toe now, and I'm like, oh, all right, well, shit's popping off in the parking lot. Let me go see what this is all about. So I step into the parking lot, and as soon as I come outside the door, I see the woman now pulling out a 7-inch gold switchblade. And I'm like, oh, shit. This just got real. All right. So I pulled out my taser. I wasn't carrying my firearm, but I pulled out my taser and I put them both on the ground because I was like, I don't know who the aggressor is here or who's about to. I don't know if he was hitting her maybe in defense because she had the knife up before. I don't know if she pulled the knife out in defense of him. I didn't know what was going on, but I knew 2 things needed to happen. We needed to stop people from hitting each other, stop someone from getting stabbed, and get the weapons away. So I put both of them on the ground, took the weapons away. Obviously, I'm not a police officer, so I can make in that case, I'm not acting as a bounty hunter, and they're not my fugitives. So I have no jurisdiction over these people other than to make a citizen's arrest. And still, at that point, I haven't witnessed a felony yet. I've only witnessed a simple battery, if anything. But my goal was basically to make sure, that this wasn't going to escalate, to the point of someone getting stabbed or for this guy to keep beating on this woman. So eventually, takes probably 5 minutes later, the freaking cops still aren't showing up, and this woman's going off, and this guy's going off in the mouth. Oh, you're not a cop. I'm just gonna get up and leave, and blah blah blah. And so I'm telling him, it's like, you can do whatever the fuck you want, but you go near her, and I'm gonna tase you. And so she gets up and she starts to walk away. Then he gets up and he starts to walk away. But I'm like, you know what? I hate people who beat women. I hate people who put their hands on women. This guy is a coward. This guy's a bitch. So I'm gonna make sure that this motherfucker sees the back of a cop car tonight, no matter what. So he takes off, and I start following him. I give him some good distance because, again, at this point, he's not, now he's not near her. He's not beating on her. So I can let the distance get in between us, let it cool down a little bit till the cops show up, which I thought would be soon, and it was not. So we get, a couple blocks down. He catches it back up with her, starts beating on her again, starts hitting her. So I get closer, get the taser on him again. So they separate. She goes her way again. He goes his way again. And this is, I think, a typical, and we'll get to what kind of type of woman that this is soon. So we ended up crossing by some Regal Cinemas, and I picked up 3 more security guards. They had tasers on them, so they pulled their tasers out. And so now we're all following behind this guy. Followed him for probably another half mile. He loops back around. We end up back in the Applebee's parking lot. Now, when we're back in the Applebee's parking lot, some kid on a bicycle pulls up, and he goes, yo, man, I'm going to fucking blast you if you don't stop following this fool. And I'm like, what? I'm going to tase your ass now, too. So I put my taser on this kid on the bicycle because he's got his hand in his waistband telling me he's going to shoot me. And I'm like, you're a little bitch. You ain't got a fucking gun. You ain't even got $20 to go buy a fucking cheeseburger right now. So anyway, so this little fucking riffraff scurries off on his bicycle. And I keep following the woman beater down to a motel. So I finally, now we passed by the Applebee's parking lot, and my girlfriend was out there still. And I grabbed my cell phone from her, and I was like, so I called 911, and I'm like, hey, I know you guys have been getting calls. Where the fuck are the police? I'm out of breath at this point. Like, where the fuck are you guys? It's been like 15 minutes. She's like, we're in the area. Where are you? I'm like, we're down by the goddamn Denny's. We're across the street. Now we're down at the motel. So this cop car comes riling up. I start running towards the cop car to tell him, hey, this guy's like, now he's running. Now he sees you guys. Now he's getting some good distance. I over to the cop car, and I see the door pop open on the cop car, and I'm like, oh shit, this cop's gonna shoot me. He doesn't know who the fuck I am. So I'm like, yo, I'm the good guy. I'm the good guy. He's like, all right, I'm like, he's fucking down there. Go get him. So they drive up. They drive past the guy. So I'm like, oh, fuck me. Kayla drives up in my truck. She thinks I got in the cop car. The cop car takes off. Kayla takes off. So I'm like, shit, now I'm on this fucking road by myself,
God.
waiting for these homeless people have got like the homeless gangs coming out of the woodworks. There's homeless people everywhere. And I'm like, I don't know if this kid on the riffraff on the bike's going to come back with a knife or what's going to happen. So anyway, so I'm running up, trying to catch up with the cops. Then as another sergeant is pulling up behind me, I see this guy. The cops had driven by him. He had looped behind a motel and gotten up on the second tier of the motel. And I looked up and I'm like, that's fucking him. He's right there. Then I start yelling to the cop this cop is driving by through the window. I'm like, fucking stop! Finally, a cop and a guy in the same place. So the cop stops. This guy gets in his room just as they're going up the stairs. This guy gets in the room. They have all their guns out on him. They're yelling at him to open the fucking door. He's probably flushing drugs or whatever he's doing in the hotel room. They bust through the hotel room door, take his ass down to the ground. He's like, man, I don't know what you're talking about. What am I doing? And we're like, motherfucker, you're covered in sweat. It's over. It's over. So anyways, we get this guy into custody and then, end up getting no charges on him because, of course, the woman doesn't want to press charges. And she's gone. She's just I'm done for the night. Never do. So what are you going to do? He had a misdemeanor warrant out for his arrest. So he spent 6 hours in the tank. But, at least he got his fucking night taken away from him for slapping the shit out of her. What a pussy.
And this was this LAPD you were dealing with or what
no, this is out in the desert.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm assuming LA because the Southland. Now, Southland is supposed to be South LA, right? South Los? Or...
Southland is like basically LA to the border.
Okay. All right. So
yeah, but the crazy thing is the cops after this entire thing, and I guess it brings me to the original point of how cops are different parts of the country. They didn't even ask me my name. Never once. They were just like, "All right, so yeah, man, thanks.
Thanks,
see you later."
concerned citizen.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you, sir. You've done a good deed today. You're like. Yeah, no sticker. They didn't give you fucking a sticker. One of them little plastic.
I didn't get a junior officer badge or a teddy bear. Nothing. I felt a little slighted.
Man, used and abused. Man, I tell you what. That's funny. It was the LAPD that reported to Cleveland what I was doing that day with that Steve Stevens guy. They're the one who reported what I was doing and who I was at, and that was one of the biggest shockers to me was that they probably wouldn't have done anything if it wasn't for LAPD getting in the middle of the mix. I'm still trying to figure out how the fuck they found me, but I guess we'll save that for a whole nother thing, because I don't even know how they found me. That's probably the most amazing thing. Besides, I was driving around and kind of talking, but I think
the fact they couldn't find the suspect, but they found you.
Right, the suspect that, might not even have existed in the first place, but,
Yeah, I guess maybe they're only, like, far-fetched concern may have been that you would have given the police's location away or something.
I think they were worried.
Uncontrolled media.
Who knows what? I was uncontrolled media. Absolutely, that's exactly what they were trying to stop. Who knows what could have turned out of that story if I wasn't right in the mix, streaming it high quality. But I can tell you one thing. I know Cleveland has a hell of a police department as far as it goes with having tanks and cops out there dressed up like they're ready to go to war, and I didn't see any of it that day. That's something that's questionable to me. If they're actually chasing a guy that's threatened to shoot 13 more people live on Facebook, but they're running around wearing their regular old Barney Fife hats, there was nothing extra. The 10 cops that they came to me with, there was 10 cops, 5 cruisers doubled up. And not a single one was wearing any more than their standard vest, their gear.
Huh.
There was nothing extra, no helmets, no nothing, and they didn't even seem rattled. There was no nervousness to them. You'd think if there was a dude running around trying to bust caps, they would at least be watching their six. Something would be going on, and it was just
or maybe they had more information. Maybe they had more information that we just didn't have at the time.
They probably had a whole lot more information than what we had. That's a going trend right now, is the police are keeping a lot of information from the public in many different respects, and I think that's a dangerous thing. I understand certain aspects of not wanting the public to know everything, but then there's that you can't just tell people stay inside. You can't just force people to go home and never come out because there might be somebody out there. So I don't think that's an excuse to be like,
I
okay,
don't think
just
it's an
stay
excuse to
inside.
like for a broader area, but I mean, if they're looking in a localized area, I kind of agree with
Right.
that. But at the same time, you know what? I think that, and I'm surprised at the LAPD call, but I don't think they would call without good reason, honestly, because in any time that I've ever dealt with LAPD or any PD out in California, I grew up on the East Coast, and I grew up in Florida, and I grew up in Boston, and the police on the East Coast versus the police on the West Coast, I tell you, the guys out here are amazing. I really am surprised at how they respond out here, because I've dealt with them on dozens of occasions now, and just the professionalism and I'm so used to in Boston, if you get into any bit of shit, I mean, just the slightest amount of shit, I mean, there are reports written about you up. I mean, they are calling you for weeks, and it's a pain in the ass to deal with. But out here, I have to be honest and say that LAPD and every police department in California I've ever dealt with has been above and beyond respectful of my privacy, my rights, and everything. And I just think they're fantastic police officers and fantastic departments out here. I really think that they're making a genuine effort to make sure that they're on the citizens' side. And so I do applaud them for that, because they have made my life a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you some of those events are pretty they're kind of eye opening to see how they do change it up. You're right. You know, East Coast police, West Coast police, or even inner city compared to rural police, they just have a completely different attitude towards how they handle the civilians or public. Yeah.
I see the big difference in between the rural and the inner city, big time. From just moving from Palm Beach to where I live now, it's a huge difference. It's night and day. I mean, right here they're respectful. They're talking to you like, like you guys know each other every day. And in Palm Beach, there's times where they could just be straight up dicks, man, just for no reason. They just want to pull you over and I mean, I've had cop just pull me over and take everything out of my car and just leave it out, and I just have to put it all back. I mean, tear out my stereo, the wiring to my stereo, like just ridiculous for no reason. Just
Well, I think
assumption.
And as times change, and as now our guys our age are now coming into sergeant roles and higher ranking roles in the police department, we're going to see, I think, those changes take effect quicker, because this new mindset is going to become more prevalent, and the old way of doing things in the old police state and the old way of treating people, that's, a lot of those older guys, they dealt with a whole different generation of crap, and so they're brought up in a different way, and they've been treating people a different way for 30 plus years, and it's sometimes necessary and sometimes unnecessary. So I think that it's only going to get better as people with different mindsets and more open people and with different backgrounds are now coming into higher ranking roles and higher ranking positions to instill those beliefs and those morals on other officers.
Yeah, it'll change with the times. I mean, times have changed, and they're going to keep changing. I'm personally, I am as far libertarian as you can get when it comes to law enforcement. I'm not a big fan of entrapment style law enforcement. The good old fashioned wait for someone to break the law by setting up a trap to do so. If it's 75 mile an hour and then you have one stretch of 55 mile an hour where they're just waiting to snatch you up. I don't like that kind of stuff. I really hate all traffic violations, because I think those are designed up for poverty war. Cracked windshield shit. Clearly, nobody likes a cracked windshield. Nobody likes one brake light either. You either don't know you have it or you can't afford to fix it. And I think it sets up like this perpetual life in just within the system. You could be a young man, 16 years old, just got your first job at McDonald's, and you're just trying to get there with a pediddle headlight on a beater old car. And you get pulled over, and there's no drugs related, no violence related, no nothing related. This is just an honest to God young man just trying to go to work, or woman, and now they have a ticket to pay that they can't afford, because Burger King doesn't pay that much money to pay a $150 ticket and replace your headlight.
Yeah.
And then, so you can't pay your fines, and that turns into a warrant. And now you got to go to court, and if you can't go to court and pay those fines, eventually, son, you just nabbed yourself a week in the county lockup. And once that happens, it's all over. I think it's just trickle down, and it never stops. So I'm not a fan of that style law enforcement. I am a big fan of cops that like to kick down doors and take heroin, or fuck people that like to hurt other people for no reason. You know, like the guy that you found at Applebee's slapping a woman. That woman could have just said, "I don't want to eat here tonight," and he could have, whoosh, bitch, you shall have fucking dinner right here at Applebee's with me. You know,
right? Yeah,
that could have been what it was all about. He just might have wanted that big ass burger with the fried egg on it, and she wanted something else, and he put the backside of his hand, and you're like, no, sir. See, so that is policing, you know, in my opinion. But that's because I'm libertarian in those ways.
No, I agree. I think, and I think a lot of nonviolent drunk offenses should never land somebody in jail. I mean, there's a line between someone always brings up the dealing drugs to kids thing.
Right.
Okay. If you're dealing drugs to kids, so there's always a scenario for something, and there's always a reason to go the other way. But as a general rule of thumb, I don't think addicts should be treated like criminals. It's not the same thing. I'm really, really pleased with the way this country has come in the way we treat marijuana now, because, I mean, even when I was working down in Orlando, way before the decriminalization of marijuana, you know, I think the first kids I caught with weed, it was 4 or 5 high school kids. It was a Friday night. They had all collected together, gotten an ounce of weed, and I had rolled up on them. And I had seen it right there in plain view, and they were rolling some blunts. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, am I really supposed to arrest all these kids for possession of marijuana? And I was like, you know what? Fuck no, I'm not. And so I just kind of, you know, made them get rid of it, because I can't let them have it, because it puts a liability in my end. Oh, they smoked it. Now they got into a car accident. Oh, well, now you're on camera and you saw these kids and you saw them having this weed and you saw them get high and all the blah, you know, so to remove the liability for myself, I had to get rid of their drugs. But if it was up to me, I wouldn't even done that. But I got rid of the drugs, and I was like, I'm not putting these kids in jail. I'm not writing their name on a report because they're in high school. What? You know, they're not committing a crime. Well, I mean, they're committing a crime. They're not hurting anybody. And why am I going to go ruin these kids' lives, or, you know, ruin these kids in any way for trying to have a little fun on a Friday night? I mean, you know, so that's always been my position on it, is that addicts and people who like to recreationally use drugs, they're not criminals.
Yeah.
Just because you're a drug user doesn't make you a criminal. Your life choices don't make you a criminal. If you want to go now rob a Walmart to pay for those drugs, well, motherfucker, you're a criminal. You're going to go to jail for that.
Yeah. Once you start affecting somebody else's life and their property, and that's criminal mentality. But I would much rather see high school kids, spark up and, you know, hang out on a Friday or Saturday night, you know, and just play video games burning, than some of the shit that I've watched and participated in growing up. See, I haven't touched pot since I was 15. It was just never my thing. I was a big fan of rum and coke back in my youth, but never was a big fan of smoking weed. But a lot of my friends did. And I can see now, growing up, you know, remove myself 15, 16 years and look back and see what happened to a lot of people from smoking pot. That was just, they did nothing wrong. They did nothing to anybody. They just like to kick back and chill. So basically, their life got ruined because they wanted to chill. And for what? For what? To push a prison system, an industrial prison complex.
So we can have people make Idaho potatoes, Levi jeans, and all that shit.
Yeah. License plates.
All made in prison, baby. Idaho potatoes, made in prison. Levi's jeans, made in prison. Victoria's Secret, made in prisons.
And now we have an attorney general. I mean, we haven't had a good attorney general in 15 fucking years, and I don't see us having another one. But this guy, he wants to roll back all the pot stuff, and it's sad because he's vested in certain aspects, his family, with the prison system. So he's going to be biased on a pro-prison, agenda. He's going to want to lock down on pot, even though Trump ran his campaign on we're going to open it up, because I believe he has personal experiences with medicinal uses, whatever that's going to turn into. But this attorney general, he wants to roll back these DC has decriminalized pot, and it's like that all over the country. And these states that are doing pot recreational and medicinal, he wants to punish them for getting products that are shipped over state line, because that creates a federal jurisdiction. So in Ohio, they passed medicinal use in Ohio about a year ago, but we still have absolutely not a single bit of progress on it because they cannot ship anything over state lines to start the process. You can't bring in seeds to start cultivating because that would be federally trafficking the drugs. So we're at a gridlock, at a total gridlock, because even the state cannot figure out how to even start by getting the seeds here legally without catching shit from the feds for trafficking. And the state's not going to risk that. They won't, even though, like I said, it's legalized. They cannot even start a cultivation process without seeds.
Yeah.
It's crap, but
we're in a place in this country where they're just trying to take away freedoms. It's always, and it's been like this since the beginning of time. There's one side that wants to suppress freedoms and make everything how they want to make it, and there's other side that just wants to has to fight to keep those freedoms. And I think at least in the last few years, at least we've won a few of these battles. I think we've made more progress in the right way than the wrong way.
Yeah. So let's switch gears. Let's get back to talking about the shit that you like to get into. What has been your... Good Lord, these attack dogs are going to eat a child. Tell me your most extreme bounty hunting event. What was just the craziest one that you found so far?
Like, you want to my most extreme event of all time?
Yeah, your most extreme situation bounty hunting. Yeah.
Or this wasn't bounty. Yeah, this is same industry, but I wasn't going after a fugitive. But I was on a traffic stop one night there, and this is all from somebody else's account, and you'll understand why in a second. So I had apparently there were 3 males in a vehicle that were harassing this female, giving her some shit, and about 2 o'clock in the morning in a grocery store parking lot that I was around, and so I went to make contact with the males, and there was a third or a fourth one that was unknown to me that during the course of speaking with the driver snuck up around my car, came in the back of me, and hit me in the back of the head with a metal pipe. And that landed me in the hospital for a very decent amount of time, about 30, 40 days. I had 2 subdural hematomas. I had a less than 10% chance of survival. I had a lot of brain bleeding. And so I ended up in the ICU unit for a few weeks, and then I was declassified into whatever they call general population in a hospital for another couple weeks, and then went off to brain rehabilitation and speech rehab and all that kind of crap. That was the craziest in terms of getting hurt or assaulted. And that was back in 2009, and that's when, until recently, that's when I had stopped doing all that crap. And I was like, my daughter had just been born, and I said, you know what, I'm not taking this risk anymore, and this is shit. So I was done with it, and I went on to different things. But before that, I would say my craziest memory was I was responding to a 911 call of a man who had threatened to kill this woman. It's always a man versus a woman with me for some reason. And so this particular individual had a history with this woman. He had previously been charged with kidnapping. He stole her car, kicked her out of it, and then tried to run her over with it. And that was months prior. So now we get this 911 call that the same man is trying to attack the same woman, and he had held himself up in an abandoned apartment in Orlando. So we went over to the apartment. All that information was found out afterwards. The way the call came in was just a resident had seen someone break into an abandoned apartment. So we show up at this apartment, and this is like my 4th day on the job or something like that. It was super early. So we're there with OPD. We kick in the door. There's fucking nobody in the apartment. It's completely empty. And I look up, and like the attic hole, it wasn't one with the ladders. It was one that's just like a square. And it was, kind of shaking back and forth. And I let him know. I was like, hey guys, I think someone's up there. So all the guys I'm with, you see my videos, I'm a smaller guy. So all the guys I'm with are much bigger than I am. So I get up on top of OPD's shoulders, and I stick my head like a little fucking gopher through the hole. And I got a taser in one hand and some OC spray in the other hand. And as soon as I open the hole, I see the motherfucker run. So I started spraying him as much as I could. emptied the whole can of OC, and this guy just went and hid in the in fiberglass insulation, which sucks. So now
it sucks.
we have
whole can and fiberglass insulation.
Yeah.
I don't know what's worse.
So now there's shit everywhere. The fiberglass is like now raining down because he stirred it all up. We're all coughing. No one can see. There's fucking OC everywhere. And then we're just sticking the taser in there kind of blind going, we're just going to fucking tase your ass. Get out. And so I couldn't stand it anymore. I get down. My partner at the time, Brian, he jumped up there. He gets in. He tased the guy. He found him in the insulation, tases his ass, gets him over to the hole. And now when we're at the hole, the guy's got his hands on both ends of it, and he's like, fuck you, I ain't coming down. You can make me get down. And Brian is coughing up along in this insulation, tases his ass again because he's still got the prongs in him. The guy got into, goes rigid, ends up falling through the hole, fell straight down on his ass and onto the floor. We took him into custody, but that is definitely my most memorable, just because it was so chaotic in there, and it was just. But the best part about it was watching, because I was down at the bottom at this point, watching this guy get tased and fall from the ceiling to the floor rigid was the funniest fucking thing I have ever seen in my life.
That is a good one.
You know what, man? I've been hit with pepper spray twice. Once at the inauguration protest. It basically rained. They were using the super soaker size cans, and just if you were in the vicinity, you were getting heat. And then one time I sprayed myself on accident, and that was one of those. That was one of the little rape whistle packs. You know what I'm saying? You get a whistle and you get a little pink can of spray. And I'm like, this is awesome, I got this little can of spray, and I'm like, I'm a teenager, I'm young, and I'm like, yeah, and I'm like messing with it, and I'm like, it could be a good fist pack or two, and I could jack somebody, and if I need to, I'll just spray it. And when I said, and I hit the button, dude, it just clouded myself, and I didn't know what hit me. I was done for. I was toast. I dropped the little can, I ran, and then I didn't realize that splashing water actually made it worse. So I'm like, water all over the sink. I had no clue what to do, man. I was just dying, rolling around in the kitchen. This stuff ain't no joke sometimes. It is no joke. And I can tell you one thing. If you do accidentally discharge a can on your face, just keep calm. Just keep calm. Because when you get worked up and you got the tears flowing and you start sweating and your pores open up, I tell you.
Oh, it makes it a million times.
It gets hot.
And if you're home, get to the refrigerator and grab some milk.
Get the milk.
Pour it on your face.
So
I tap tased myself with a C2 taser by accident once. Like a fucking dumbass. I was like, it was new, and this is before the video on my channel where Kayla tased me, and I was just playing with the taser, and I took the cartridge out, and I had it. I had the cartridge in my right hand, and I was trying to close. The C2 is weird. It's not like a flick up. You have to like open this little panel on the top and then press the button. But I couldn't close the because to turn the taser off, you don't just let go of the trigger. You have to close the panel back. But the way that it was, I couldn't hit it with my thumb, not even thinking. So this thing's going, bap, 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 it's going off, and it's just on tap tase mode. So I needed to press it up against something so I could flick the thing shut. Not even thinking, I put it up against my leg, and I fucking tap tase my ass. I felt so stupid. It didn't really hurt. It was like for 2 seconds. I felt so stupid because I'm like, fucking really, Pat? Fucking really? The taser's going off, and you think to close it, let me put it up against my leg.
Yeah, it was one of those slow moments.
It seems like all the less lethals have just punished me throughout life. Tasers, batteries, knives, little sticks. I mean, just about anything you use has punished me, but I've never had a problem with a firearm. I've never, ever once have I shot myself. So I'm just going to stick with the firearms.
No accidental discharges?
Nope, never. The only time I have seen accidental injuries with firearms, I took my father-in-law to the range, and he's an old dude. I assumed the guy, he had a couple shotguns, whatever. I assumed he knew how to shoot a gun. So, I load up all the pistols and I lay them out on the table there at the range, and I'm like, go ahead, knock on wood. I said, go ahead, take your pick and fire away. He reached down. I had a little Kel-Tec 9mm, a little pocket pistol, and he grabbed it. He's got these big old hands. I mean, he's got some big ass hands. And he grabs this thing and he grabs it. And he's like, pow, pow, and it's just a slide bite bit the shit out of his hands. and he took off and I didn't even know what happened. He just set the gun down and walked out of there. And he came back and he had his hand all wrapped up in paper towels from the bathroom. And he's like, I'm kind of embarrassed right now. I'm going to the car. And so he went out to the car, and I packed everything up, and I went out there, and he showed me what happened. And I'm like, damn, I thought you knew how to shoot a gun. He's like, well, I shot a revolver once. So I'm like, these are nothing. You don't hold these like that,
Whoops.
Yeah.
I had a negligent discharge before. It was a 38 revolver, 38 special Smith & Wesson, the long one. I was 18 years old. I was sitting at some friend's house. He had just got it. I was messing with it, and I messed around and cocked that hammer back, and I was trying to just scoot it back forward, and I just let it go, and it shot right through his living room floor. And yeah. That's the only time it's ever happened. I never had a negligent discharge in the military or after or anything like that. So
I came back from the range one time with my AR, and I was cleaning it out in my living room, and I had I was just kind of cleaning it and racking it back and dry firing it. So I dry fired it, and then I racked the bolt back, and a fucking 5.56 round popped out. And so the story behind that was when I was at the range, my last round didn't discharge, and fucking stupid me. I mean, this is my first rifle, and not very long being a gun owner. I think I was like 18 and a smidge, and so it never dawned on my dumb ass that when you have a squib load or you have a round that doesn't discharge, rack that bolt back. But whatever it was, I wasn't counting the rounds they was coming out. Maybe I just thought it was my last round, whatever it was. But I was like, God damn, how did I not know that there was still a fucking round in the chamber? So thankfully, it didn't go off at the range. And then very, very thankfully, because I lived in an apartment, it didn't go off at the house, because that shit would have been right through the wall into my neighbor's apartment.
Yeah. That's scary.
That's a life changer.
Yeah.
That is.
That hits somebody, say goodbye.
Yeah.
I actually have a close friend that just experienced that with an AK-47. That was they manufactured it with a full auto safety on it, and the full auto safety, it can go a little higher than the safety position, and when it does that, it will negligently discharge. And he was the owner of a strip club in West Palm Beach. He had it in his liquor room. He was moving it off the shelf to grab one of the bottles of liquor, and it went off and shot his maintenance man through the walls. And he was in there repairing the hot water heater, and it killed him. And right now he's actually going through the stuff right now about that.
Is he in jail?
No, he's out on bond. He's going through everything, and it's really hurting him a lot, because that man that it killed was his family. So
yeah, like what I mean, I thought, like, what do you do in that situation if you go to? I mean, he's out on bond, and I don't know what he thinks his chances of fighting it are. Maybe they're good, maybe they're bad. I don't know. But if you're in that position and you fucked up royally, I can't even imagine what goes through his head. I mean, it just
exactly
what country is going through your head at that point.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. And it's like, especially when you've done everything you can throughout your whole life to not be a part of the system, and then it happened like this. Is like, oh man, it's sad, man. It's sad, because he's came a long way, man. He owns three tax services, and then now he just bought that strip club. And I mean, he's a real close friend of mine. I've known him since I was 13 years old. He's actually one of my best friend's older brothers. And when I was young, I grew up kind of poor. He used to buy me clothes for school, man. So it's kind of a touchy thing to me that happened to him. But
hate to interrupt, but I think we're gonna have to cut it short, because for some reason, about 30 seconds ago, the stream went into straight lag.
Okay, yeah, I see the wheel on my screen here.
Yeah, not sure why, so we might as well just we'll just call it. I got one question to ask Patty before we shut down the live stream, and that is, do you believe in aliens? It took me a long time to come up with a good question.
Do I believe in aliens? Yes.
That's good. Me too.
Wait, and to what? Just in general, or like living on Earth, visiting? To what extent?
Just existence.
Oh, for sure, 100%.
Fantastic.
Yeah, no, I saw 4 of them coming across the board when I was going to Baja.
Yeah.
Oh, man. And that took a minute to sink in for me, man.
Yeah, there's the hook and the sinker.
Oh, man.
Dun, dun, dun. So, you guys want to stand by for 2 seconds. Everybody, thanks for coming out. To Be Free, Nash, Danny Ellis, Whom It May. Who else is out there? Kevin LaPrade showed up. What's going on, Kev? At Beyond the Eye, Mama Lioness was in the house, and everybody else who tuned in for a little bit or is going to watch it later as I throw this show on my other channel. Hopefully we could try to keep directing people over. Check out the links in the description box if you want to find out how to get a hold of Patty Mayo TV or Chiikko. I didn't get your stuff in there, but I will. And go check out the t-shirts, guys. I spent a lot of time coming up with these t-shirts. I even made a pretty cool one for a lady. So check out the t-shirts. It's going to help me get to California so I can go and bust heads with Patty. Because you got to reserve an event with me, dude. If I ever make it to California, I want to go with you on one of these door busters.
All right. We'll get you on a ride along.
Right. Sounds good to me. So everybody else, thanks for coming out to the Be Rich Podcast, episode number 2. Many more to come. Peace out.
Peace.
Work with me, man.